All right. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to at any point in time where some folks are watching now or later. Thank you so much, Pete, for being here every week. And what's so fun is every single time we have a session speaking together, it opens up 100,000 more doors. And so I think that might be my notification. Let me just turn that off again. Um, so last week we were talking about lost and found. When you lose something, how you can find something through various hypnosis practices. Which I'd love, Pete, if you are willing to share just a little bit of the person you just worked with about what happened with your last
Yes.
client. Um,
Yeah.
Before that, I just want to also just say, so our door in from this lost and found, just talking about ways that you can work with it. Pete has a live example of how it does work. We realized that we kept touching on how so many of us like lose trust in ourselves and ways that we can find refind that. So there was just sort of that reflection from losing something physical and how often we lose aspects of ourselves, and even a bigger part, losing trust within ourselves. And I'm sure it can also relate to like losing trust in the universe or losing trust in, that inner compass. So we're just gonna kind of keep on going, and I'm sure more doors will open. so um yeah, Pete, would you share with folks like how some hypnosis that you did actually worked with the client around lost and found? I love it.
Yeah. So I had a client who lost some rings, or I wouldn't say lost. She she packed them when she moved. So she moved from down south to Massachusetts, um, and she couldn't remember where she packed them. She swore she went in every box, head to toe, back and forth, um, for years, trying to find them, and wasn't able to the point where she got frustrated. Um, and so pretty much she was like, this is my last resort to find these rings that realistically mean a lot to her. And, you know, for me, the session really revolved around the last time you remember holding them. What was it like? And she described it, she felt it. And I said, great. I said, just hold on to that feeling, right? Let your mind guide you to where they are. And you just got to trust, you know, and you got to let go. And so it was probably 2 weeks after our session. She sent me a text going, they were, I think they were in her car, in something. And she's like, I don't remember putting them there. She goes, that makes no sense to me, you know? And I said, realistically, what happened is she went, I just trusted. Something inside me said, I need to look in this box that's in my car. And there they were, you know? Because a lot of it, and this I find when we rediscover the trust in ourselves, we have to be able to let go of all the preconceived notions that we have to discover ourselves, right? So I think very much, and you may agree, disagree, that it doesn't matter if it's physical, emotional, how we find it's the same. You
Which
know,
is how.
yeah, is by letting go, right? But
Mm.
if we think of like today, where it's finding or refinding the trust in ourselves, if I were to ask you, what's your definition of, you know, self trust or trusting yourself?
Mm.
You know, my viewpoint of self trust is really my belief and confidence in my abilities, right? In my decision making, in my judgments I make. You know, it can happen when something good happens, if there's a challenge, right? No matter what happens, I believe in my abilities. But believing in my abilities means, to me, I have to accept my flaws,
Mm.
you know? And so when I have that self trust, it doesn't mean that I have the right answer, but it means I can find it, I can learn about it. Uh, and that is when we think of how do we find our self-trust. We have to accept our flaws as part of it. Because and again, this is a Pete perspective, when we do that, that's when we can overcome our fears we face. Because when we trust in ourselves, when we face those fear moments, those uncertain moments, we can take the calculated risks needed to overcome it. Because we may be faced with a challenge, a fear, an obstacle, and we may not have the skill set to overcome it the first time. And we have to be okay with that, right? That's one of our flaws, because we may not have learned the way yet, and that's like, I think about it for myself. Like, could I run a marathon? If we look at me as I got 2 legs, I'm healthy, yes, I could run a marathon. But if I look deeper at my flaws, no, I can't run a marathon, right? I might get a mile in and be like, all right, I got 25 more to go. This is going to be a long day, But I also have the belief and the self-trust in myself that if I wanted to run that marathon, I could go to the gym. I could start running on a treadmill. I could start running, a mile to 2 miles, right? That is having self-trust. It doesn't mean I got to do it tomorrow. It doesn't mean I got to be able to do it right now. But I accept my flaws as far as, my limitation is a mile, not 26. That is a flaw if I want to run a mile or I run a marathon, But when I embrace it, that's when I essentially begin to grow, right? Because that's when I'll go from a mile to 2 miles. Right?
Well, and what I hear too is, when you're talking about, like, a few minutes ago, you're talking about, you just have to let go and trust. I think that I know for me that is kind of a difficult. That's like a really broad statement. It's something that in a lot of situations I couldn't just like. It's like, let go. What am I going to do? Like, I'm on a surfboard. I'm not very good at it, and I'm just going to like let go and do it. Well, then I do that, and then my head gets hit and I can't swim. So I feel, but then, and I heard you a little bit later talking about like letting go. I think it's more like, and what I heard is that made more sense for me is letting go of your disbelief in yourself, letting go of these strong convictions that you have, like, I can't do that, or these are the reasons why I'm not doing that. It's like, what if you just let go of that thing so that you can just have the openness of, I have the ability to be able to, and the more I let go of this, strong belief or strong conviction of these things that are holding me back, I'll be in a better position to be able to find X, Y, and Z. I mean, that I can then I can understand letting go in that capacity.
Yeah, letting go is a very broad statement, right?
Yeah.
Because it's different for everything, right? And so, like, we'll take surfing as like the good example, right? Oh, what if you hit your head on a rock and then you can't swim, right? Well, the trust in yourself around that rock might not be there yet, right? And so that comes into, I say, one of the reasons why people lose trust in themselves is they have the unrealistic expectations, right? It's okay to say, I'm not ready to surf near that rock, right? It's just as easy to say that as it is, I'm not ready to surf that 10-foot wave. You may have to start out with just being on the shore and just figure out how to just stand on the surfboard, never mind a big wave, right? We need to have those realistic expectations based on our skill level, right? And unfortunately, I think a lot of us don't equate our skill level with trust, right? We typically go, and I'm a guilty party in this, I think, as everyone else, is we want to hit that finish line, right? We want to be where the people that we want to be near are, right? But they also had to go through the same steps that we need to go through now. Yeah. And so when we can have that realistic expectation of like, hey, I'm not ready to, be near that rock, is a good calculated risk. It doesn't mean you don't surf. It just means you don't surf there yet, right?
And I think that, that those are, I think, things for us to really pay attention to, these like little baby steps when we're trying to refine the trust in ourselves. In general, we do make really huge, broad statements, or these really kind of like and ors. So it sounds like some of the things that you're suggesting, like using the words there or yet, then it's like, okay, I can't make this move because X, Y, and Z. I can't, get on the surfboard because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, yet and in that manner. So what if I let go of all of these preconceived ideas and notions that are keeping me where I am? Now, if I let go of all of that, might something else develop? Am I open to allowing something else to develop? Have I developed some skills, or am I willing to develop some skills to listen in and or allow some images or ideas to come into my head, not judge them, and see what my interpretation might be? And might I learn something? And would I have learned that had I not let go? I feel like the letting go of like preconceived notions and barriers and blocks, and I mean, even if you think that they're preconceived truths, like, what if you let go of all of that, where you're still safe enough that you're not going to hit your head on the surfboard, or become homeless, or never be able to make money again?
Yep. Yeah. But it's a concept. I think I know his last name was Baker. He did a book written late 80s, early 90s called Paradigms in the Business World, something like that. And he talks about in it a lot of, even, I think of back in the 80s and 90s, right? Which feels like yesterday. Again, it's not, but it feels like it. It's a big part of how we see things. It's always been done this way. I've always felt like this. I've always done this, And when we get stuck in that trap, we're literally closing our view of what's possible to just that, And that's never an area where we can grow. That's always an area of where we're comfortable,
right? Or familiar with.
Yeah. And when we're trying to create something, or create a new habit, or get a new career, we have to be willing to go, I get this is how I've always done it, but I can't do it that way all the time now, right? And again, that's a very gentle, not that you can never do it that way, but sometimes we gotta try a different way,
right.
And that's where the growth will happen, because then you might even learn more about that way to do a third way even better than both of the other ones combined, right?
It almost feels like the difference, between the logical mind and the creative mind. The logical mind goes, these are the things I know, and these are the, steps that it takes to make this and that happen. The creative mind goes, well, what if, and how about, and I know this sounds crazy, and this has never been done before. It's like, they're like the twins that are, so different.
Yeah, right. And that's when we think of like hypnosis. I love, because our conscious mind is very much that rational mind, right? It's very much, hey, this is what we've always done, right? This is what I know. This is what I'm comfortable with. The unconscious mind, that's where, we look at it as the critical factor, right? The gatekeeper, the one that stops the impossible and only tells us what's possible, right? Once we get past that, everything's possible now. And so we get to look at things and we get to break them apart, right? Because I'd say the other big thing when people lose trust in themselves, they're always looking at their past mistakes and their past failures as if they're all connected. You know, and again, like this is one where I'd say there's times still where I fall into this, but I say more so old Pete, where I'd be like, oh, this failed, I failed at this, I failed at this, therefore I must fail at this because I'm just a failure. Well, the truth is none of them are connected, right? They're all separate things. And each time I learn something, so did I fail? Maybe, but I failed better, right? I did one thing different where I learned something. And just by being able to let go of that idea that I failed versus, and whether you want to call it reframing, renaming, repurposing, I changed it into a new meaning, right? I changed the reality around it because yes, I think our reality shapes what we do, right? And so when we look at our past mistakes and our past failures and go, what did I learn? How did I grow? How can I do this better based on that? You're breaking them up. And that's when we can begin to trust ourselves again.
Yeah, I love that. So I wanted to ask before, do we have a guided visualization we can do on this today?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. So before we get into that, one of the questions I have is, could we talk about like some of the definitions of letting go and different approaches? Because I feel like one won't work for everyone.
Yeah, it's one where letting go will look different for every activity we do. And that's what makes it hard, like talking about just letting go as if it's this easy thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's like, let go of what, and then where will I be?
Yeah. In order for me to determine how to let go, because again, it's different from how I let go for myself, how I let go for my clients, how I let go of family, how I let go of driving, right? The way I look at it for me to help determine is I go, well, the best version of me who has let go of it, right? What does he look like, right? And so, like, let's say we're talking about love, right? Or, we'll do love, right? I was gonna say empathy, but I think love would be better. So, like, let's say I am a cold-hearted person, which I hope I'm not, but maybe I am, right? I look at my best self and I go, oh man, the highest, best version of me that it's so loving. What does he see? Right? And I go, okay, so he sees a homeless person and he goes over and he helps him, gives him the shirt off his back as if it's nothing, right? What does he say? Right? Well, he's always saying just kind things, right? He looks at the world as, I want to leave every interaction better than how I entered. Right? What does he, think to himself? Right? He thinks that he's good enough, that he deserves love, that he can give love. Right? All these things. So I go, great. Now I got a picture of lovable Pete. Right? Well, who am I now? What does he have that I don't have? Oh, well, he's not holding on to the fact that everyone's going to try and scam him for being lovable. Right? He doesn't care if people pull the wool over his eyes. He's still going to be lovable, right? So that's something I have to let go of, right? I have to let go of the feeling that if I am lovable and kind to people, they're going to, scam me in some way, right? They're going to trick me and abuse my love, right? Well, that sounds like an easy thing, right? But when we think about it, again, this is where I think of like the reframe, the rename, the repurposing of it, is, well, if I didn't look at it as they were scamming me, right? How else would I look at it as? Like, all right, so if they're not scamming me, but they are, taking my love and not giving it back, right? Well, how can I look at that any differently? And you know what? Maybe I just look at it as simple as maybe they're so low on love that they just need more of it. And therefore, I just got to give them more love to help them fill their cup, and then we'll see where it goes. Now, that I may do that for a while, and then I go, you know what? They no longer deserve my love, right? It's not that I'm not lovable, but they haven't done anything as far as trying to fill up their cup, right? Because if I gave them to fill up their cup and they just poured it out because they're like, no, that's not what I want something else, right? Loving myself means I stop giving them my love and give it to someone else, right? That's still love, but it's a different form of love that will come recently from that failure of continuing to give it to them, right? And so that becomes the game of letting go. There is no magic answer, right? Maybe the right answer would have been just to not give them any of my love in the beginning. But maybe it was, giving them, maybe they feel like no one in this world believes in them. That's why they do it. And when I start believing in them, they change, right?
So it seems to me that, for folks that are listening, things to kind of think about is, for letting go, first of all, you can always let go and grab back on. You can let go of certain aspects with the idea of you're making space for something else. Also, you can let go of something, try on something else, let go of that, try on something else, let go of that. So there is this kind of, just this grand like letting go, especially if you feel like you're sinking, or if especially you go like let go of what. It's like here's some ideas I think around it of just kind of like, like even to think about who you might want to be, it's going to be easiest and have most space on the table to let go of who you are in that moment. Well, I guess not necessarily, but I was just thinking, if you're going to think about who you want to be, and then you go back to like, who am I and what would I have to like let go in order to do that? That's kind of a nice trick. That's like a nice way in to not just have a general letting go, but like, here's some aspects of who I want to be. Here are the things that person has. Okay, now let's come back to where I am right now. It's not just that you have to change yourself or do something different, but there is a letting go. I feel like there's some alchemy within this concept of like letting go of a conviction or a way that you are and you've been, and by just kind of like allowing it to let go of you too, because sometimes some things feel like they're gripping you, and sometimes you notice that you're gripping. So just that concept of like letting go, all of a sudden there's some space. So
And I don't know if you notice this when you do change work, let's say for yourself, the magic happens in that space.
it does seem like the magical space.
Yeah.
I think maybe often people sometimes try to change without the letting go, and that actually seems to be a really important thing, and I think very challenging for people when they are used to it being their safe space or who they are. If I let this go, will my world fall apart?
That's a big fear. That's a big fear, right?
I've grown this part to make sure I'm okay. If I let it go, right? So maybe there's like, some ideas to consider too about ways to, I think especially in these change work worlds and scenarios where, you might take 20 minutes or, just while you're safe in bed, you can just like take it off and put it in a box, knowing that it's not going anywhere. You can put it back on just to feel for a minute. If I let this go, if I take off this pendant, this jacket, and try on this one, maybe letting go sounds too big. And if people can just know that there's little bite size sections of it, kind of like you're saying, like, I can't do that now yet, there is different than I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to practice letting this go by just removing it from my space and put it there so that I can take it back if I need it, to try on this other thing that this future me that sounds really good has. You might find that it's uncomfortable. You might find that you love it. You might find that you don't want to pull it off. And I think sometimes you find that letting go or taking off that thing sometimes is like way harder than you imagine, right? Sometimes these things internally and mentally are sticking. And then you have to find a way, like, what's holding on. Then you get to start asking questions, which maybe
Right.
that could be our next topic, is good questions,
Mm.
right? Because if you can't let go, or it won't let go of you, instead of trying to strong arm it, what are some questions that you can ask to see what it needs, why it's there, and find a way, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
questions are so potent.
It's one where um, I think of like tattoo removals, right? They're not fun to get a tattoo removed, right? I know people who have done it and they're like, it's painful, but after they feel better, right? And sometimes we got to think of it that way, like letting go of something we held on to for so long may be painful for a moment, right? But it helps us become our true authentic self by letting it go, right? Because the reason we don't want to hold on to it really is because we go, well, that's not who I want to be. That's not me being authentic. That's me taking and holding on something someone else gave me and said, this is how you got to live. And we go, I can't live that way, right? I think of like entrepreneurs as the heavy burden of that tattoo, right? Because almost every entrepreneur I know, their parents were like, you got to do the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. This is how you get through the world, right?
Yeah.
And they go, but that's not the life for me. But so many of us, we fall into that 9 to 5, and we're going, I'm not my authentic self. Like, I know I could be an amazing business owner. I could be this, I could be that. And sometimes we got to go, all right, I'm going to go to the tattoo removal place. It's going to hurt. But what's on the other side is so much better. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, I hope that, people who are listening have some, tools to work with, some ideas and ways of breaking down the big letting go to smaller bite-sized pieces to allow some of yourself to experience, feel, imagine, um, an aspect of something new that might be able to take that place.
Yeah.
And before we end, we'll have Pete just run us through the visualization that can also help, um, you know, get you there, and then that you can kind of take on your own and do further. So, are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm ready too.
So all we're going to do is get nice and comfy. Nice stretch. We're just going to sit there. Hopefully no one's running any machinery. Who knows? Better not be. Take a nice deep breath in. And when you exhale, just close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, it's as if you can turn inside. See, when we turn inside, we get to notice things that we weren't aware of before. Maybe you're aware of the rise and fall of every breath. Maybe you become aware of the air around you, the heat or cool, the wind, the stillness. Maybe become aware if you let your shoulders get droopy and heavy, that it can send this wave of relaxation down your arms. See, as if you can begin to feel the weight of your body grounding you to the earth. bringing in this warmth, this comfort, this relaxation with every breath we take. And maybe you can just see yourself just going down deeper and deeper inside, letting every noise you hear, every thought, everything become part of your experience, bringing you deeper into this reality, away from conscious thinking into the unconscious realm, where possibilities are endless, where our best, most authentic self lives. Our self that gets to trust every decision we make, knowing that having that trust doesn't mean we know the answer, but we know where to find it, how to research it. See, as you go deep inside, just allow your mind to drift, to wander, to remember a time when maybe you felt confident, maybe even so unbelievably confident in yourself. See, a time when you trusted your decisions, where you listened to your instincts. And as you begin to remember that time, maybe you're giving it the space it needs to grow, become big and colorful and loud in your mind. You get to begin taking this confident feeling and filling your entire being, warming every part of you. See, this trust in yourself is not lost. It's always within you, just waiting to be tapped into. You just need to create this space to come inside, to remember a time where you trusted yourself, your decisions, your instincts. Now, I know some people out there will go, Pete, I never felt that before. And then can you imagine what it would look like to have it then? To have that confidence where you trusted your decisions, where you really felt your instincts grow. To know that that decision is the right decision. That confidence is well-deserved. Because each and every time that you doubt yourself, remember this feeling. You are capable. You are worthy. And you can always trust yourself. Really let this belief anchor into your unconscious. Let this belief really spread to every part of your body like water fills up a bottle. To anchor it in, to be there whenever you need it. Because now all I want you to do is to take all the time you need to really get to know what it's like to live in a mind, body, and soul alive with this confidence in yourself, where you can trust your decisions and instincts. To really feel it fill you up from the tip of your toes to the top of your head. And when you know what that means and how you can live your life, you get to come on back. But again, take all the time you need now to get to know what that's like. Welcome back.
That was fun. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I think that everyone really kind of visualizes and sees in different ways, and no matter, I have a very vivid imagination. um and some people, however you see, the best thing to do is not judge it and just be inquisitive and interested, and I feel like um what I'm noticing is that, I mean, this is just my own kind of noticing, so I'm curious what you think. And I haven't heard like research about it necessarily, but um, whatever visuals come in or ideas, it's like we have to remember we have what's said to be, this like cognitive brain and these eyes and these senses that see things. And so it's, creating an image for one person that will be different for another, but it might be still expressing the same energy, right? And so there's, in that way, I mean, so often stuff comes up for me that are cartoons, and it's just kind of like, and stuff where I'm like, why? I didn't have a cartoon one this time, but I often do. And it's like, well, there's a possibility because I watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, but it doesn't devalidate that image just because the image doesn't, it's not, some, wild, picture, ancient picture on a cave. It's just that my brain and my eyes and everything I've experienced is kind of showing an image that represents something. So it's really, I think, often the representation, if you get inquisitive opposed to judgmental about the thing that's happened.
Yeah, right. It's one when we think of our unconscious mind, whether it's imagination, visualization, whatever you want to look at it, everything it experiences is 100% real. Doesn't matter if it looks like a cartoon or a live action, cinematic video, right? Or anything in between. It's 100% real. And what is doing it, it's relating what it knows to the experiences, right? For the same reason, where if I was like, think of a cat, some people may think of a black cat, some people will think of a white cat, and others are mixed colored, and some are tabby and long haired and short haired, right? Those are descriptive terms that our mind puts on something, right? Someone may look at a cat and see a rude, crude animal. Someone may look at a cat and go, that's a loving being or creature, right? They're both right based on their own experiences, And so if I'm like, oh, think of a cat that's loving, and someone goes, well, no, cats aren't loving, they'll have a really hard time. But if I went, hey, just think of something that's loving, someone may think of a cat, someone may think of a dog, but it will work because it's right for them. It's right for your mind to go, this is how I experience these feelings or these emotions or these events. And that's where, two people won't have the same story, even if they're in the same room.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I would love to next week talk about some empowering and opening questions, because I think, especially with when you're working on finding ways to trust yourself again, and if you do different visualizations and listening inward, um, in those spaces, um, what letting go of the judgmental um, ideas of what it is and replacing them with some really potent questions, um, I think would, is really a good skill set and
Yeah.
tools in your toolkit. So, um, well, thank you. I liked my visualization today. It was very beautiful, and it's really fun to have finally learned, after years and years of just allowing what it is, opposed to judging it, because you get so much more out of it,
Yeah.
And so, thank you for the visualization and for today. And um, as always, anyone who's listening, ask us questions if you have any, and reach out and subscribe to our channel. And until then, all right. Any last words, Pete, for our listeners?
No, just take the time, go in that space in between and just listen to what comes.
Great words. I love that. All right. Ciao for now then. Till next
Bye.